here, when you see the green, then we don't want to put our hand on the bottom. You just don't want to put your hand on the bottom. When you see the green, you're good, and then just don't cover up the bottom. I don't want to block you guys. Okay, I'm going to stand to the side. Welcome. Mitch with the Nampa Chamber of Commerce. This is exciting and an important night. I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. That's good. Okay, a couple of housekeeping rules, and then I'll get out of the way, and we'll get to the most important thing, and that's our candidates. Let me start off by saying thank you to all of our candidates, both these, and then we're going to rotate and have our other friends come out. But let's start off in a positive way and give a round of applause for all of our candidates, please. Mitch's opinion only, but it's way easier to sit in these seats than it is in these seats. So you're brave and bold, and I commend you. Okay, so welcome. Real quick housekeeping. There's restrooms around the corner there, and then if they're full, there's also restrooms downstairs. Wi-Fi is posted by both doors here for that. This is being recorded. So just, again, I'm going to say the word respect, respect, respect. We've done these forums before. Hopefully you've seen on behalf of the Nampa Chamber. We're here to educate. We're here to inform you, and then you go out and vote. So this is all about respect and gathering information. It's a great chance for us to get to know the candidates. So you'll hear the word respect several times tonight. Cell phones off, please. Again, it's being recorded. If you want to take a quick picture of something, I get it, but you don't need to record it. It's being recorded, and it'll be pushed out on our website. So all candidates will have access to that as well as you all. So real quick, if I was you, what I'd want to know is format from about 6 to 7. We're going to have our county commissioners up here, the 3 of them, and then our 2 corners. And they're going to go through a panel of questions, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll rotate them out and have our legislative district friends come up from 12, 13, and 23, and then go through the same process. So, again, all this information about the candidates and stuff, Jill's running around here somewhere. It's a brag on Jill, but if you go to nampa.com, we have our voters guide. There's a page on advocacy and election, elected officials directory. Everybody that's running for every position that touches Nampa is listed on there. So go to that, to nampa.com, to our voters guide, and it has all the information about dates and who's running in which districts and all that good stuff. So go to that for more information. Real quick, again, I know our friends from the Idaho Press are here, and they're going to be taking some pictures and doing a story, so we appreciate that. If I was you, again, what I'd want to know is these questions that they're going to be asked tonight were formed by the business community, so they sent us the questions. We had a committee that kind of put those together, and that's what formed these questions. And last but not least, a couple of public shout-outs to Jill. She did a lot of the work on this, our staff team, Jeff Agenbrav from 2C Values. And then again, May matters. So our goal here is that each one of you get educated today and then go tell all your family and your friends, and then they tell others and they tell others and they go vote. So the end result, the goal is to increase voter turnout. I think that's it from me, other than I'm going to introduce our moderators here in a moment. The word endorse, I want you guys to hear this. So the chamber took on a new rule in alignment with 2C values. We did this on the last election. The chamber now will endorse. So we've sent questions out to all the candidates. They have filled out. They're on our website. If you go to that page, if they filled out questions, they're on our website. And then their responses today will be posted. And then we have a committee that sits down and vets those. And then we now, the chamber, endorse. But it's not Mitch versus Chelsea endorse. It's Chelsea, is she aligned with the Nampa Chamber and vision? Is Mitch aligned with the Nampa Chamber and vision? And so when we endorse somebody, it is a committee that vets them and endorses them based on, are they in alignment with them? Okay? I'm looking at everybody. I think that's enough for me. Again, Chelsea will be keeping timer. She's our bodyguard tonight. So when her phone goes off, that means that your time is up. And I would not get on Chelsea's bad side. So if her timer goes off, I would pause. Otherwise, we'll get security involved out here. I think that's it. Again, restrooms are around there. This is a respectful night. This is to get educated, you guys. This is not easy what they're all doing. So I commend them. And with that, our professional moderators, Claudia and Vicki, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. They're professionals in this. They've done this a couple of times throughout the years, and when we reached out to them, they said yes, they would do this. So I think from that point on, I'll pause, Claudia, and turn it over to you and Vicki, and we'll get started.
Okay, and just another thank you for the Nampa community so quickly to make this happen. Encouraging to see everybody here. We have a rare opportunity to hear from the candidates themselves instead of some of the noise that we see on the internet. So this really is a great forum, and we thank the chamber. And another great thing is that we are having it broadcast live. People aren't here. Can we hear me now? Okay. And then we'll be able to replay this. For anybody who missed it, it will be linked online so we can watch it over and over. Then you can share it. So I'm honored to be here. Claudia Weatherman. I'm a Nampa resident. I work in Nampa, owner in Nampa, and just a citizen here. And Vicki?
Thank you. I'm pleased to work with Claudia again, but happy to see everybody. It's nice to see faces that who are not candidates and who are not people who organize this event. So thank you for coming out. It's appreciated. I've been in the business for years. I'm retired. I feel like kind of a fish out of water, but many forums over the years, so I'm happy to help out. So Claudia's going to ask the first question.
So we're going to rotate, and most of the questions will be 60-second answers, but we'll be clear if it's not. So we will start from left to right. Heineman, and then Palmer, but we'll keep you on track. But this first question will be a 60-second response. Please tell us who you are and why you're running for Canyon County Commissioner.
Make sure I got this thing working. My name is Scott Brock. I'm just a poor Emmett kid. Very proud and happy to be here from Emmett. I've been around the world with the military, the U.S. government. Spent a lot of time doing expeditionary diplomacy. Been on 2 presidential security details in high-threat environments. Came back to Idaho in 2015. Got involved in politics a little bit. Running for Canyon County Commissioner because I see the need. I was dedicated to running before I knew Leslie was not going for re-election. Just saw some problems. I see where we're going. I'm very in tune with what happens at Canyon County through development services, etc. I understand the needs, and I just put my name in the hat and made my wife very angry.
Stuart Heineman, I think. I do know who I am. Stuart Heineman. I've been in this valley since 1981. I've had a lot of different positions. I started out in the livestock industry and worked for the state veterinarian and graduated to opening the offices for the state of Idaho in several countries around the world. Since then, I've owned a customs clearing warehouse. I had an export trading company. I owned a grocery store and a restaurant. And I own 3 insurance companies at the moment. Why become a county commissioner? Over the years, I think the group of county commissioners we have right now are actually doing a pretty good job, and I believe I fit in with the county commissioners there and can help manage that budget that's out there, where with all of the things that are going on, they ended up with a net positive in the budget. They didn't spend everything they budgeted. I want to see that continue for the county.
Thanks very much. My name is Travis Palmer, and I'm born and raised here in the Treasure Valley. Is it working okay? All right. So I got my degree at the University of Idaho, worked in Boise until a job took me out of state for about 8 years, and then we came back home to the Treasure Valley at the end of 2019. I'm running for commissioner because the Try one more here. Okay. Born and raised in the Treasure Valley, got my degree at U of I, worked in the Boise area until a job took me out of state for about 8 years, and then we came back. Yeah.
Magnetic.
Yeah, so for the last 20 years, or the better part of 20 years, I've been in the Chamber of Commerce. improve the economic vitality and to improve the quality of life for the communities in which I worked. I worked with businesses of all types, property owners, landowners, government partners. There's all kinds of people. And, you know, from that, I've got a lot of experience with trying to figure out how to solve problems. What I've learned is that real progress happens when people come together at the table, communicate openly, and focus on real solutions. One of the challenges I constantly hear about is growth. Yes, growth can bring opportunities, but also brings unique challenges as well. I think we have a lot of those. You know, I'm running because I want to bring a balanced, thoughtful approach to growth, one that protects what we value, and thank you.
Okay, let's hope that we can get the mic situation worked out. So we're going to start with Stuart this round, and this is a 30-second question. Share a brief overview of your history in Canyon County and your involvement in local organizations. Just 30 seconds.
30 seconds. 30 seconds in a microphone that doesn't work.
Use the handheld that I just put there. Run that one up and down, please.
So 30 seconds. I led a 4-H group out in Notice for about 20 years, local. I was the president of the Wild Turkey Federation. I've been involved with the CCRCC, the Canyon County Republican Party forever, and involved in all those sorts of things. There's a bunch of trade groups that I've been a member of, and I mentored a lot of people out there as they developed their business. It was part of the insurance training that I gave.
Okay.
All right. Well, in Canyon County, I've been a part of, you know, not only the Chamber of Commerce, but all the committees. I'm kind of on every committee we have by default, ag business, ambassadors, that kind of stuff. I'm also on the board for the Live Foundation, which is a charitable giving organization. I'm on the board for the Destination Caldwell, as well as the Business Improvement District and a handful of other things. Try to be as involved as I can, and just, you know, get as much as I can to the table. Thank you.
Hey, Scott.
I've been involved in the Middleton Chamber of Commerce since the minute I moved there, 2015. I was the MC on the 4th of July parade. I think there were 3 or 4 of us, including my wife, who basically ran the 4th of July parade top to bottom. Been a coach at Middleton High School, got 3 state championships under my belt. I'm the president of the Idaho Sportsmen's Alliance. I fight for public lands. So I'm involved in my community 1,000 different ways, and I have been since I got here.
Okay, thank you. For this next question, we will start with Mr. Palmer. Little more time on this one, a minute and a half, 90 seconds. So, Mr. Palmer, what, if elected, will be your top 3 priorities for Canyon County and why?
Thank you very much. Top 3 priorities for me are going to be the thing that I hear about day in and day out. Number 1 is balancing the growth. People are upset about how quickly we're growing and all the problems that it's causing. Growth isn't always bad all the time. Again, it brings you unique opportunities, but we have to make sure that we're keeping the portfolio of growth that we have in balance. We have to protect what we have and what keeps us sacred as we grow. We cannot lose track of what makes Canyon County unique. We're a rural community in many and all parts, but we also have some growing metropolitan areas within our county as well. Next priority is going to be improve the relationships that the county has with the cities within it. I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. I think there's a lot of room for more collaboration, more working together with the communities so that we can make decisions effectively and create better efficiency. If we're not talking to each other and planning and understanding what our visions are and where they overlap and where they might actually, contradict each other, then we're not going to be efficient. And when we're not efficient, it's the taxpayers that suffer from it. Third priority is to establish a vision. I think people want to plan. I think that nobody knows what the shared vision is for where we want to be as a county 10, 15, 20 years from now. And we gotta set that vision and establish it so we can go after it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brock, your turn. What, if elected, will be your top 3 priorities for Canyon County and why?
Number 1 and number 2 are probably going to coincide, and that be put the brakes on growth. If you've attended any of the commissioner meetings, the land development meetings, the hearings, the rooms are packed, everybody says no. That leads right into congestion. So people are tired. There's too much happening right now. We have potential water issues coming up. We need to pump the brakes. We need to take a good, strong look at where we're going, and we need to have growth pay for growth. We've got to have leadership that's willing to take the bull by the horns and focus on the things that matter. The populace, the voters, the people in your community, your neighbors are tired of growth. We're losing ag land like crazy. It's just going away so fast. We need to stop and think about it and stop putting profit before people. I'm here to do that. I'm the only one that's going to stand up and say that's where we need to focus. So I do have a plan on how to do that. You can't say you're going to have zero growth. I don't think that's applicable. I would be okay with 1 home a year. That's a joke. So 0, I know it's not going to work. 1 to 10 homes a year, I'll crack a smile on that one. But you see my point, where my focus is at. We really need to think about what we're doing, and right now we're on the precipice of falling off the cliff.
Perfect. And Mr. Hyman, would you like the question repeated?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, if elected, what will be your top 3 priorities for Canyon County and why?
So you've heard all this before. It says the county covers almost all of the ag ground. And so when you're talking about what the commissioners can do about development and that sort of stuff, it covers the stuff outside of the cities. It doesn't really affect what happens within the city. So balanced and responsible development in the county, which is mostly ag ground, which brings me to the second part of this. Out there in my world, I started out in agriculture. I'm still an advocate of everything agriculture. We need to protect what our ag lands are doing, and remember that acre of ground that's out there producing $10,000 or $15,000 worth of revenue a year, once you put a house on it, it no longer produces anything other than a place to live. So when we're removing ag ground and turning it into houses or into industrial sites, I believe we have to take 2 looks at it before we make those decisions. The third thing, the biggest budget in the county actually happens to be public safety. And managing that public safety and all of things that are happening within the 3 or 4 different sections of the county, elected county officials, is an important thing, because the county commissioners do control the budget for those things that lead to public safety. Those are my top 3.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next question, and we'll start again with Scott. And this is a 60-second question. Canyon County is the fastest growing county in Idaho. How would you approach managing this growth?
Well, there's a couple ways to do it, and frankly, I don't want to give out all my tricks and tactics, but this all starts at development services, and it's we got to stop saying yes to rezones. We had a lot of them over the last few years, and that's where you're converting ag land into residential or commercial. It never comes back, like Stuart said. So there are things that can be done as a commissioner there. So that's really kind of where the focus is at. We have to work on our comp plan. Again, we take too long to readjust a comp plan. The world is moving faster than our comp plan, so readjusting the comp plan, keeping it a living, moving, breathing entity will help slow some of that growth down. And then we also need to work with the Idaho Department of Water Resources. We are looking at bad things ahead, and if we're not careful, they're going to jump on us and we're going to look like Vegas. We're going to be a real desert. We are a desert, and I think right now those are going to be my focuses.
Okay, Stuart.
Again, what's the question?
Is Canyon County is the fastest growing county in Idaho? How would you approach managing
the managing the growth is all those things. He says, we talked about the comprehensive plan. I've read the comprehensive plan, and it hasn't been reviewed in the last 5 years, and it was used in the county. The information is dated to about 2019, maybe a little bit in 2020. So there's some things, particular populations and where those populations are within the county are past their use by date in the comprehensive plan. There's about 100 pages in there, and it directs all of us to do, all of the people who are doing development to pay attention to ag lands and that sort of stuff. In particular, ag lands with significant use like Sunny Slope and some of the others. So when you look out there, we have to make sure that we're keeping up with the current changes and recognizing what they are doing, and look at what they mean to us in the future.
Thank you. Travis, would you like the question repeated?
Sure, and is this a 60-second or a 90?
This is 60.
Thank you.
Canyon County is the fastest growing county in Idaho. How would you approach managing this growth?
Thank you. First thing I'd say is we have to have clear set rules, and we actually have to stick to them once we make those rules. For example, you got to know what the comp plan says. One of the problems between the comp plan and the zoning codes is they contradict each other in a number of areas. You got to fix that issue where those two things don't match up. Because then everything is left to interpretation. You also got to know where there's interpretation and where there's not, because the last thing you want to do is not follow the law and get the county sued, which costs the taxpayers money. You have to know where there is strict rules, you have to set the rules, and you have to follow those, and then know where you can and cannot leave room for interpretation. Well, what happens when there's interpretation? You have to have a vision to know which way you're going to go. We need to establish a vision for what we want. Developers will follow the rules if they know what they clearly are. They won't when they're not really well established. They just want to play the rules of the game and know what they are. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to kind of stick on that growth topic because it is so very important. Mr. Heineman, we'll start with you on this question. Again, 60 seconds. So growth affects roads, public safety, and schools a little bit differently. Our schools cannot simply solve overcrowding through standard impact fees in Idaho. So what steps would you take as a commissioner to help address school facility needs tied to new development?
School needs tied to new development. Well, within the comprehensive plan, it basically says if you don't have the capacity for schools, then it's a good reason to say no. And you can follow what's in that comprehensive plan and basically say, and even in the city's comprehensive plan here, the fact that you don't have schools that can take on the students, the planning and zoning department can say no until we meet those needs. It's a matter of getting all of those things, all those assets you need in place before the growth happens instead of after the growth happens.
To repeat that. Growth affects roads, public safety, schools differently. Schools cannot solve overcrowding through standard impact fees in our state. So what steps would you take as a commissioner to help address school facility needs tied to new development?
First thing I'd do is get the schools at the table. We had Caldwell is looking at doing something that is similar to what Middleton is trying to do. And when they had that hearing, the very first speaker that was the current mayor of Middleton, he got up and he said, it didn't work for us. We're already talking about repealing it. So, and what was sad about that whole situation is the one school district that this discussion would help the most wasn't in the room. And they had their reasons for that. And I'm not throwing them under the bus, but they need to be a part of these planning decisions. We might think we know what's going to solve the district's problems, but if they're not at the table with us and we're not talking about how things will or won't affect them, I mean, we're missing a massive part of solving the issue. We have to have everybody at the table. We also have to recognize the fact that both of those ordinances that are being proposed are school districts which not every, there's issues that won't help them. For example, all the different growth outside of the boundaries that wouldn't be controlled by those ordinances.
All right, Mr. Rock, do you want me to repeat the question?
So first off, that ordinance is all related to city. That was the city of Middleton and city of Caldwell's doing it. So there's not a lot as a Canyon County Commissioner that I can do but watch and say, hey, pretty good idea, I like it. I've been crying about impact fees for 10 years. It's the elephant in the room. It makes every developer hate my guts, but it's the way it is. We have to work with the legislators that are sitting in this audience today to work to reframe the law so that we can get impact fees for the school. You can also have developers have a requirement in the state of Texas. If you build so many homes and so many acres, you have to throw in a school. So we need to have our developer counterparts come to the table, and whether that means by a rear naked choke or by some sort of more subtle leverage, we're going to have to do that. But in order to keep these schools from dying, we're going to have to implement, and I'm going to push very hard for impact fees.
Okay, we're going to start with Travis. And this is another long question. It's 60 seconds. Managing a county is just not about supervising 400 employees. It's about overseeing departments with different missions, legal constraints, and budget pressures. What experience have you had leading through that kind of complexity?
So the one thing I understand is when you put somebody in place to supervise, you got to step back and let them do their job. You have to hold them accountable for what you've put them in place for. Our job as a county commissioner is not to go and manage every employee at the county. It's to manage accountability. It's to let the directors do their job, address the concerns and the problems that they're having as directors, and then tell us what the problems are legislatively or policy-wise so that we can make decisions and governance decisions to fix those things. We should not be getting in the middle of staffing issues unless it becomes something where it is incumbent upon us to do the judicial side of it. So, our job as commissioners is to be administrative, to be judicial at times, land use decisions, set and approve the budgets. It's the departments that set the budgets. We just have to approve it or not. Let's let the people that we put in place, let's the experts do their jobs.
All right. Scott, do you want the question repeated?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Managing a county is not just about supervising 400 employees. It's about overseeing departments with different missions, legal constraints, and budget pressures. What experience have you had leading through that kind of complexity?
Well, I've served in multiple leadership roles in the State Department and in the CIA. And in those operations for the State Department, as a matter of fact, I was in charge of over 600, we'll say, security operators. They're contractors. I would achieve the rank of Foreign Service 3, FS3, which is the equivalent of like a GS-14 that puts me pretty high. So leadership is done from the front, and I will always unequivocally lead from the front. I'm going to interact with every single department. I'm going to be the guy riding to fix potholes. I'm going to be the guy that's over at Chris Boyd's office shuffling papers whenever I can. I'm going to learn and work with every single department. I'm not just going to be floating around doing nothing. So leadership starts from the front. I want to know what every single person who works at Canyon County, what their job is and how they do it, and how I can make their job better. The more efficient they work, the more I can get out of them for less.
All right. Stuart, do you want the question repeated?
Please.
Managing a county is not just about supervising 400 employees. It's about overseeing departments with different missions, legal constraints, and budget pressures. What experience have you had leading through that kind of complexity?
My experience, I was number 2 at the Department of Agriculture from 1988 to 1995 for the state of Idaho. And basically, there were 6 supervisors within there for the different positions within the Department of Agriculture. Canyon County is much the same. Elected officials, clerks, the assessor, the prosecutor, the sheriff, the coroner, they're all elected, they all have their own budget, and they manage their own people, and they are the experts in that area. Development services and that sort of stuff is also within the Canyon County Commissioner's purview, and so those people you're going to have more direct connection with. But like we've said here, all of us have basically said, You have people in charge, they need to remain in charge, and you have to manage the budget and show the direction and lead how you're going to get to where you need to be.
Next question. Our rotation will start with Mr. Brock again, and it is a 1 minute. If elected, how will you balance representing the interests of your district with the needs of the entire county?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for that question. I have learned that each little district is different, and they all have their particular needs. Some of the cities within those districts have been able to get their impact fees going, others haven't. So they're all different. The way to do it is to just show up, to be available. I like to meet with people as much as possible. I'm very introverted normally. I'm at home and I separate myself, but when I'm at work, I'm all in 100%. So I've got to be meeting the mayors. I've got to be meeting the people who are running those cities on a constant, steady basis. I got to meet with every legislator that's here that represents their area. It's a constant level of communication. I have to shoot, move, and communicate properly and make sure that there's a never-ending flow of that. So they're all different. I've learned that recently, how different they are at this point in our juncture. And so I'm gonna be in everybody's face all the time.
Mr. Heineman, you want the question repeated?
Please.
If elected, how will you balance representing the interests of your district with the needs of the entire county?
The balance of the district, District 1, basically running north of the interstate from county line over. I don't see them, they are very different in ways because most of the development that's happening within the cities that are around here, Nampa, Caldwell, and Middleton, are in District 1. So that's one aspect. If you go down south, District 3, that's way more agricultural, but it has to be managed as a group. And so to separate how you're going to represent District 1 or 2 or 3 is in my mind pretty irrelevant. You have to represent everything that's happening within the county. And I believe that's what you have to do to be a true county commissioner, is represent the entire county.
Thank you. First thing I'd say is we have the full spectrum within the county, right? We have to run in the district in which we reside, but everybody in the county will be voting for one of us when it comes time, in the primary. So, that's a lot of people, and there's a reason for that. We have to be open, we have to be present, and we got to be willing to learn, and we got to be willing to respect the differences between our most rural areas of the county and our metropolitan areas. We have to, again, I'm going to say it over and over, we got to bring people together at the table so that our rural citizens have an understanding of the same issues as the metropolitan, and figure out where we have the middle ground, how we can work together, and how we can preserve what makes Canyon County special, but let everybody's quality of life be elevated. It's coming back to me.
Okay, we will start with Stuart.
There you go.
This is 60 seconds. In today's polarized political climate, how will you encourage respectful dialogue and maintain civility?
Respectful dialogue and maintain civility. I believe if you're interacting with people, wherever it is, my years as an investigator told me you should maintain the level of your voice, don't raise your voice, speak only the things you know for sure, and listen to what other people are saying. So when you're talking about respecting all characters, all the people out there, that's what I've been doing most of my life, is meeting with people at their level and listening to what they have to say. Of course, they do have to listen to some of my stories, but that's just a trade when you're going through there. So from my standpoint, I think the level of civility, you need to insist on it, particularly in public meetings. I've seen some that got out of hand and they weren't managed very well by the leadership. Those need to be managed better.
Okay, Ms. Travis? In today's polarized political climate, how will you encourage respectful dialogue and maintain civility?
We have to lead by example. When, it wasn't very long ago that the county had a lot of animosity within its own ranks, and it set a poor example, and I think a lot of people got a lot of heartburn about that. Now, they've come a long way since then, and they've been doing a great job. We have to really continue to set that example. My emphasis on working with groups and hearing both sides and making sure we understand them is because that's a signal of respect and an understanding. Seek first to understand, then to be understood, right? That's the old adage. We have to set that example. We cannot lose our temper in the face of unkind people. When somebody comes up and shouts, somebody the day after I filed in a community I haven't even been in much yet, said I was an evil liar just because I filed. They don't know me. It was completely uncalled for, and I just kind of had to laugh it off. It's one of those things where in this job, that's going to happen. That comes with the territory. We have to be the bigger person and be kind, even in the face of unkind people.
Scott, in today's polarized political climate, how will you encourage respectful dialogue and maintain civility?
I have a lot of experience in this, meaning that in the past when I ran for office, I have been beat to death. I was treated very poorly. My family was berated. I took the brunt in probably some of the worst campaigns that has ever happened in the state of Idaho. And I'm confident saying that. I feel very confident about that, how I was treated and my family was treated simply for volunteering to run for office. I turned the cheek in most cases. As a matter of fact, I know somebody who's sitting in the audience who knows firsthand all of this. So I took all of it, and I will take it to a point, but there comes a point when you start doing things detrimental to my family where I'll take action. So leadership comes from the front, and I would prefer to have a face-to-face conversation rather than having you put disparaging websites about my wife up. So when that happens, we're going to have legal action, and I'm going to come back at you. Simple.
We'll start with Mr. Palmer, and again, in 1 minute to determines how would you work with state lawmakers to ensure Canyon County can meet the needs of residents?
The first thing I'd say to that is, while we're always trying to be open to our citizens and our residents and our local businesses, we have to constantly be developing relationships up the food chain with our legislators. What I've found is that most of them, as long as you're not coming at them telling them how awful they are pretty open to returning phone calls and sitting down with you. If you, again, it kind of goes back to the prior question, maintaining respectful dialogue and constantly building that relationship with legislators, telling them what your constituents are saying, bringing them into our community whenever possible and saying, meet with our people, meet with our business owners, meet with our landowners, telling them, listen to what these people are saying, and here's where where we have no control and we need the help from the legislature. We have to be constantly developing that relationship and telling them what is wrong at the local level so they can fix it at the regional and the state level.
Mr. Brock, the Idaho legislature determines how counties can collect revenue. How would you work with state lawmakers to ensure Canyon County can meet the needs of its residents?
Constant communication. I'm just going to let them know where our needs are at. I think that question was in the survey, and it came in the form of, the cap that legislators had put on cities, and they have their reasons for doing so. Basically, they're the ones controlling the House budget, and they're saying, son, this is all the money you can get. When counties start to fall short and we can't control our spending, that's where the problem's at, right? We're spending too much money, so we have to constantly go back and ask for more. Growth is a part of this. Growth says, oh, we have more houses, so we need more of this. So if we can curb that growth, I don't have to go back and ask Dad for money all the time. So I just want to keep an open context with my legislators, and I know 99% of them, they'll answer my phone call sometimes. And then work with them and say, hey, here's what I need, here's why I need it, can you help me?
Mr. Heinman, do you need to repeat it?
I'd like to hear the question again.
All right. The Idaho legislature determines how counties can collect revenue. How would you work with state lawmakers to ensure Canyon County can meet the needs of its residents?
Again, the constant communication between the legislative side of the state of Idaho is one of those things that county commissioners have to do, as not just the Canyon County commissioners, but as all commissioners, because we all have to live with whatever comes out of Boise, basically, in the way of how we're doing things. So it's not just collaboration with our local representatives and senators, it's collaboration with those other county commissioners and getting a guided or a plan to move forward that works for all of the counties in the state of Idaho. That bill that was in there, 389, has been the bane of the county and the city for a long time. And after 6 years, the legislature jacked it up, put it under a radiator cap, and changed parts of it that gave some issue to fires and EMS. So constant push will cause them to move.
Got it.
Scott, you'll start us off with the last question,
Okay.
and you have 60 seconds. Why should voters choose you to serve as Canyon County, as a Canyon County Commissioner?
I'm going to give my closing remarks. I think there's a clear choice in this race. Now, I may be a little biased, but I would encourage you folks and any groups that may be backing a candidate to really ask yourself what is the most important. Having your guy in the race or having someone who can hit the ground running, someone who knows the ins and outs of development services, knows where the problems are at, knows who to meet, knows who to talk to, and can get the work done. So we want voters to take our votes responsibly, so we have to focus on who is the best person. I think I can hit the ground running. There's no time for me to learn. I know exactly what needs to be done, who does it, the whole process within the county for the most part. So I think you need to look at not having regret in 2 years about your vote and saying, let's put a guy in there who can do it right now.
Okay, Stuart, why should voters choose you to serve as Canyon County Commissioner?
I do know what the law says for the county. I am aware of the comprehensive plan. I've been in this county since 1981, and I've served in a lot of different positions out there, including the impact fee committee out there. He says, so when you're looking for someone to step in there, I think you're looking for someone that can step in and work with the current commissioners that are out there and move the process along in the best way for all of the people of Idaho, or of Canyon County. And if you look at those things and you talk about the priorities of balancing and responsible growth, protecting ag, I think I'm the only one up here with any ag background to speak of, and then public safety, I think I fit all the bills, all the things we need to do within this county and to fill that position, so.
Okay, thank you. Travis, why should voters choose you to serve as Canyon County's next commissioner?
I think it's because you want somebody that is not only willing to be humble, but character matters. You want somebody that is willing to not, you want somebody that's willing to learn, willing to admit when they need to learn more, willing to admit that maybe they were wrong when they first were presented with a side of an argument, but they got smarter as they dug into the process. I'm willing to dig into the process each and every time. I'm willing to set rules and guidelines and bring the people together to make good decisions. I'm a big believer in process. I'm a total process geek. If the process is good, you don't have to worry so much about the outcome. If the process is bad, the outcome will be bad. I geek out on process because it works. I care about character, it matters, and I'm willing to be humble and say when I don't know the answer, but you know what, I'm gonna go find out what it is. I'm gonna do the best I can to represent every person in this county.
We're just family here. We're just friends. We're going to pivot real quick. Let's give them all a round of applause. Yay. Okay, we're going to take like a break. I'm going to do this. We're going to have our friends from the county commissioners go ahead and sit with their families and their friends. Mike, and then we'll have our coroner friends stay up here. So give us 1 minute, 2 minutes. And
Sorry, friends, we're gonna pivot. Thank you. We're gonna have them sit. We might as well move you two together, or however you wanna do that. Sure. Get you some working mics. Sorry, I know you sat there, but maybe you were able to listen to learn.
Sure, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We're gonna pivot and have them eat. We're not really gonna have to stay up. Yeah, they're sitting there learning from all you guys, right? You got water, you're good. I'm gonna ask him what mic he wants to use. I have no idea what's going on. You have water.
Well, there's just two of us. We can share one.
Yeah, I mean, if we have to, I'll ask Brad. Okay, Brad or somebody? For them, which one do you want to do? Just, you want to share this one? Just share, okay.
Now let's get the other people out there. 6 wireless. So
They are? You ladies are ready?
Yeah, sure.
okay, 1 minute, heads up. Grab your cookie, stretch, take a seat.
Test, check, test. Questions, talking, check, test. This is mic 1. Hello, check, this is mic 1. Check, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, friends, if we can take a seat, that'll keep us on track with our schedule. This is where I start saying, Darrell, welcome. Thank you for taking a seat. Mr. Jay Snyder, thank you for taking a seat. Jimmy, thank you for taking a seat.
Well, I know, but I like the first name, so I'm like, it's a good. But I had to go get the paperwork,
Okay.
so I knew what their names were.
Friends, out of respect, if you'll take your conversations out front, I would appreciate it. We are going to stay on track. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your flexibility. Should I sing? Okay, enough from me. I'm going to go back to my friends here, Claudia and Vicky, and turn it over to them.
Okay, our coroner candidates from left to right, Jennifer Crawford, thank you, and Sydney Walker. And so we'll just alternate between you who will answer each question first, who gets the surprise first. So first, 60 seconds to answer this question, and we'll start with Ms. Crawford. Please tell us who you are and why you are running for Canyon County Coroner.
I'm Jennifer Crawford. I am the current Canyon County Coroner. I just went blank. My goodness.
That's okay. You got 25 more seconds.
Okay. I have 17 years of death investigation experience. 15 years of those is in the Canyon County Coroner's Office. The last 7 have been as the elected coroner. I held a certification with the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigation. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with an emphasis in crime scene investigation. I have a passion for public service. I love the community, and I want to help provide them with answers. It's my duty. I can't provide closure, but I can provide understanding and a little help along the way.
Ms. Walker.
I just want to thank everyone for being here. It's great to have so many informed voters. My name is Sydney Walker. I was born and raised right here in Nampa, Idaho. My husband, Brian, is a first responder and has been serving our community for the last 15 years. Together, we have 2 beautiful boys. We have a 5-year-old and a 10-month-old. And although we are busy, we are very blessed. And I'm also a Christian, and I'm finding God to give me strength to get through this tonight. Apart from that, I'm an American board-certified medical legal death investigator. I am a nonprofit director working in organ, eye, and tissue donation, and I'm a previous senior deputy coroner for Canyon County. I'm running for coroner because I believe our community deserves a coroner that's well engaged in the community. You guys deserve to know what the coroner is doing, and being more informed just means a safer community for everyone in it.
Okay, Sydney, we'll start with you for this question. Share a brief overview of your history in Canyon County and your involvement in local organizations. And this is a 30-second response.
I'm born and raised here in Nampa, Idaho. I actually got my community service bone from my grandmother. She was a community service officer for Caldwell Police for 30 years. So I got dragged along to a lot of community service events. But now, since my husband's a first responder, we volunteer with Fill the Boot in the Fireman's Burnout Ride. Apart from that, I'm a Caldwell Lion, and I work for a Lions organization. So service is in my backbone and what I get to do every single day.
Okay, go ahead. Jennifer?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Share a brief overview of your history in Canyon County and your involvement in local organizations.
I've been in public service for 22 years with Canyon County. I worked in the sheriff's office, moved my way up to the crime lab. I am actively involved with several organizations that bring awareness to the community, whether it be drug overdose, sudden infant deaths, and I can't think of the third one, but my time's up, so.
Well, you can go ahead and keep the microphone. We'll start you first for this next question. And I believe you've kind of already answered it. What coroner-related experience would you bring to the office?
For us, like I said, it is our duty to provide answers to the family. I have a lot of experience with a lot of different people, a lot of different situations, and I have the ability to act on an emotional basis very quickly to see what is needed. Some families need that extra assistance, some don't want any. But with that experience of knowing how to address a situation and their needs is of utmost importance to us in our office. Like I said, we can't provide closure, but just an understanding.
Okay. Ms. Walker, what coroner-related experience would you bring to the office?
Sure. So I was a previous senior deputy coroner for Canyon County. During my time there, I investigated about 100 deaths per year. I am also an American board certified medical legal death investigator, and I'm actually a private contractor death investigator. So across the U.S., when governments, agencies have a underfill, I will travel to their office and fill that position until they're able to backfill that themselves. Apart from that, I work in an OPO, so an organ procurement agency, and we work with coroners every single day. They're the ones that send us referrals. I work on our harvesting team and work on retransplant for patients and donors. So I do a lot every single day in the coroner will.
All right, Sydney, why don't you go ahead and keep the microphone? This is 60 seconds. Describe the importance of the coroner's relationship with the public and outside agencies.
The coroner's involvement with the public is extremely important, and I think that's a good point on what we can improve on within this office, is that all of you community members should understand what the coroner is doing, because when you're informed, it creates a safer public community. And that's one area I will work to inform by putting out data for you guys. So whether it's an annual report, and doing that all with protecting the privacy of the family as well as the decedent. And there's a way to do that to keep you informed and just keep you safe.
Okay, do you want the question repeated?
Sure.
Describe the importance of the coroner's relationship with the public and outside agencies.
The coroner's role is extremely important because we see the deaths that occur. We have the statistics to show, is there a trend that's plaguing our area? Dang it. I don't like this. And so we can work with other agencies to let everyone know and so we can get ahead of the problem before it becomes a larger issue.
We'll let you stay with the mic for the next question. Again, 1 minute. What, if elected, will be your top 3 priorities for the coroner's office and why?
The top 3 priorities is obviously dealing with the population growth. Of course, with the larger growth, we have the more cases. More cases can lead to our investigator burnout. We have a very small office. We have 7 death investigators, including myself and the chief. So as the cases grow, that's a lot for them to take on. And then the third is fentanyl has been a real issue over the past couple of years, and we are working on creating the first overdose fatality review team, so we can actually see how our community is being affected and areas to move forward.
To piggyback off that, turnover and burnout in the deputy coroner role in Canyon County is very real and has been a prevalent problem since about 2020. And the big reason for that is just due to salary. So since 2021 to 2026, the elected official salary has gone 26%, while deputy coroner starting pay has not increased at all. That means that our deputy coroners, they're the ones that are the boots on the ground. They're the ones that are responding to your guys' families, to our community. And when they're turning over and burning out, that means that we're not having qualified candidates. We're having to retrain them. We're overloading our current staff and things like that. So I'm going to work on rebalancing that, work on retention and training and support for those people that are the boots on the ground doing the work. Another major issue is transparency. So we're a taxpayer office. We shouldn't operate in the dark. You guys should understand what we're doing. Better informed communities are safer. And last is just training and development. Our relationship with Ada County can be strengthened, and we can do more training with Ada County for more service.
Okay, Sydney, we're going to go ahead and start with you. 60 seconds. Canyon County is the fastest growing county in Idaho. How would you approach managing this growth?
Of course, I kind of touched on that in burnover and turnout with deputy coroners. That would be the first thing that I would address, because when they're turning away, our population increases, and then we have no one to respond on those calls, and our staff is extremely burnt out. I would do that through, like I said, retention and growth. Really isn't just about numbers, it's about the people that we're serving. When we have a higher population, we're having more complex cases. So again, we need higher training, higher standards within our office, and really work on keeping those boots on the ground workers within our office.
Canyon County is the fastest growing county in Idaho. How would you approach managing this growth?
Like I said earlier, we are a very small office and we have 7 investigators. We definitely need to up the staff. We need to focus on education, personal development, to be able to fit the needs of the county. With the growth and the case complexity that we are seeing, additional training to ensure that the newer people are emotionally capable of dealing with the situations that they're facing. They're getting in there, and sometimes they're just really hard, and so they leave because they can't emotionally handle it. So it's hard to keep a full staffed office all the time to manage the growth.
Okay. You can take 60 seconds for this next question as well, Ms. Crawford. How do you plan to be accessible to citizens and engaged with the community?
I have always been accessible. On the county website, that number that's listed, that's my desk. I have no problem answering questions. I like having conversations. Obviously, I'm not a good public speaker. It makes me nervous. But I will sit and talk to someone all day long if they want me to. So I'm very accessible, and I'm always at work, so I'm easily found if needed.
Would you like that repeated, Ms. Walker? How will you plan to be accessible to citizens and engaged with the community?
Yeah, I think this is a major part that we can improve on. All of you guys deserve to know who your coroner is, and you should see me at multiple different events. Anywhere a death occurs is where a coroner belongs. So we should be at suicide awareness events. We should be at schools. We should be at driver's education, teaching kids on safe driving and the effects of not doing safe driving. All of those types of things are places that the coroner can be involved within our community, especially in nonprofit work. There's a ton of great nonprofits out there. Lifeline Pregnancy is one. They, take in women that aren't prepared for pregnancy, and we can teach them how to practice safe sleep with infants, and that would prevent infant deaths. And those things are very important in our community.
Okay, Sydney, go ahead and keep the microphone. It's 60 seconds on this question. In today's polarized political climate, how will you encourage respectful dialogue and maintain civility?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I'm a leader in my current role, and I always lead with humility. So I'm one of those deputy coroners, and I would treat them just as I would want to be treated, and that's exactly how I treat families every single day, no matter what, no matter their background, no matter their religious stance, their political stance. They're a family, and they're a decedent to me, and they matter. So I lead with compassion and empathy, and no matter the political climate of that deceased person, they all deserve integrity in their death investigation.
All right, Jennifer, in today's polarized political climate, how will you encourage respectful dialogue and maintain civility?
In a family's time of need, it doesn't matter their political affiliation. They're there because they need the answers. They want the compassion, the dignity, and the respect to their loved one, regardless of how they may feel. When I think about the job and the compassion, it gets to me a little bit, so now I'm getting fuddled. But yeah, it doesn't matter the political climate. They all deserve the love and the respect, no matter what.
Okay, we'll start with you on this next question, 60 seconds as well. In your opinion, is the coroner's office properly funded? And if not, what changes would you make to meet the needs of Canny County?
I do not believe that the coroner's office is properly funded. We provide Class A service on a Class C budget. We make ends meet. I don't always want to up the budget as needed. I trim the fat on things that we haven't used the year before rather than increasing. If I have to increase, I will. And increasing staff will increase the cost of the budget, but I'm still very conscientious of the taxpayers and what they want to pay. I'm a taxpayer too, but sometimes there is a need, and I will respectfully approach that to the public if they have any questions about it.
All right. And Ms. Walker, in your opinion, is the coroner's office properly funded? And if not, what changes would you make to meet the needs of Canny County?
Sure, I actually believe it's properly funded as it is. The biggest thing, like I stated earlier, from 2021 to 2026, the elected official salary has gone up 26%. That 26% can be redistributed to our working class, our deputy coroners. They deserve the pay, they deserve to be supported because they're the ones that are working on the ground. I don't believe it's a matter of increasing taxpayer burden. It's just a matter of being better with the budget and reallocating funds to where it matters most so that families get a better level of service.
And final question, 60 seconds. Sydney, we'll start with you. Why should voters choose you to serve as Canyon County's coroner?
Yeah, this job to me is not just a job, it's a calling and it's my passion. It's what I loved to do. I loved being a senior deputy coroner. What is biggest for me is that I don't believe this is a job that I have to do. It's a job that I get to do. I love serving families. I love being compassionate. I love brewing a pot of coffee and sitting with the families and walking them through what is about to happen because it's something I get to do every single day. Thankfully, it's not something they deal with every single day. So I'm an expert in the matter, and I get to sit there and be there with them. And that's really what I'm all about. Again, I'm a leader that leads with empathy and compassion, and I feel that for my staff and for the deputy coroners, and they deserve better support.
All right, Jennifer. Why should voters choose you to serve as Canyon County's coroner?
I have years of dedicated service. I've talked about my professional, my education, but more importantly, I'm a person too. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a grandma. and I'm a member of this community, and I have served thousands of you in thousands of situations, and I know what you're feeling. And I've experienced loss, and I want to have a commitment and a promise to all of you that in your time and need, I will have compassion, the dignity, and the respect for your family member as I would expect from my own.
Thank you. We're going to take a short break now.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If we can, we're going to switch out. If we can have our legislative district friends all come up together, 12, 13, and 23, we'll do a rotation.
Okay, so for this, do you want...
Okay, we're going to start in about 1 minute, just to keep everybody on track. There's cookies. Grab a cookie. Take a seat. Probably just going to share this. Started. Lots of chitter chatter. I like it. It's good. It's good. Okay, real quick, I just want to do a shout out as we're transitioning to say one, our Nampa Police Department was standing back here in the back, so thank you to them for showing up. I see some of our city council friends that are here. Victor's here, Debbie's here, Dale's here, Natalie's here. So thank you to our current city council friends for taking the time. And then I see some familiar faces of our legislative representatives, and so way cool to have the representation that we have tonight. Thank you for your patience and understanding as we get through some technical things. I think we're just going to be friends up here and pass the microphone because we know this one's working. So at this time, I will hush and turn it back over to Claudia and Vicki.
All right, so we're going to actually cycle through all 4 of the candidates that are here this evening, but just for the audience at home and the audience here, so Ben Adams and Sean Simmons are running for the Senate, District 12. Those 2. And then the next 2, Cody Daffer and Steve Tanner, are running for 13 House B. And then running for House 23A, Melissa Durant. And unfortunately, Chris Bruce had a family emergency this evening and couldn't be here, but she does have an opponent. We're going to make sure that you're still in in the forum tonight and answering these questions for voters. So we will start on that end, and then we'll rotate our whoever starts the question. So 60 seconds. Share a brief overview of your history in Canyon County and your involvement in local organizations.
Well, my name is Ben Adams. I'm the current senator for District 12. I've had the privilege of serving the city of Nampa and the citizens of Nampa in the legislature for the last 6 years, 2 years in the House, 4 years in the Senate. When it comes to local organizations, I am a little more recreational in my involvement. I love the Nampa Rec League. Don't tell anybody, but I play a lot of local softball leagues and all the fun stuff because I'm 36 years old and I still can move my body a little bit. I also attend the Nampa Rec Center and use that a lot and get to play sports with a lot of folks there. And because I've been the legislator for 6 years, I've been able to communicate with a lot of these local organizations across the board and get to hear what they have to say and try and take that to the State House for them.
Okay, Mr. Simmons, a brief overview of your history in Canyon County, your involvement with local organizations.
Thank you. Let's see. I'm a fourth generation Idahoan. I've lived in Nampa with my wife Jody for over the past 10 years. I ran against Victor Rodriguez and 4 other people in their last city council election. Congratulations, Victor. We're in good hands. Back on topic, sorry. Huge fan of Victor, huge. Anyway, I've worked for several nonprofits, state ran agencies such as Department of Corrections, Oregon Department of Corrections. And I'm running out of time because I got sidetracked, but anyway, I'm excited to be here and thank you.
Okay, our candidates from House 13B, we'll start with Cody Daffer. Outline your history in Canyon County and your involvement in local organizations.
Sure, my name's Cody Daffer. My wife and I own a flower shop. I have been on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the last 4 years. I'm a part of the Chamber of Commerce. Our flower shop's joined that. We've been in the community for the last 6, and we go to church a lot, and we participate in our church. I've been in leadership positions in my church. We've been able to, so my wife's family owns a small business for the last 3 generations at this point, and we've been able to help that out a bit. So we've got a pretty good idea of what's going on in Nampa and what kind of concerns that we're going through right now as a newer family. We are expecting our second child here in the next month, so this is going to be one heck of a race for me. But yeah, we're excited to be here, and I'm excited for the chance to tease out some issues and see what we can get done about them.
All right. Mr. Tanner, would you like the question repeated?
Yes, please.
Your history in Canyon County and your involvement in local organizations.
Right. Steve Tanner, and I've been in Idaho, in Nampa, for almost 10 years now. And I wanted to move here about 35 years ago, but I couldn't convince my wife. So I wanted to be, I hear people talk about being a native Idahoan, but God didn't bless me that way. He had other plans. Organizations I've been involved in, I'm your current legislator for Seat B, and have been for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I've been very active in the Republican Party in Canyon County in various capacities, precinct committee man for a number of years. I got very involved right after the 2020 election. Also, we're very involved in church. I've held different leadership positions. And I think another way that I communicate that I'm learning more about Nampa is just I do a fair amount of door knocking, and I just talk to people.
All right, and our candidate from House 23A, Melissa Durant, let us know about your history in Canyon County and your involvement in local organizations.
Okay, so I'm Melissa Durant. One unique thing about District 23, it's Ada County, Canyon, and Owyhee counties. So I don't live in Canyon County, so don't hate me, but I'm not that far away in Ada County. We farm, so my in-laws have been there since '47, so we've been very active in different agriculture organizations. I've had opportunity to serve on different capacities with Idaho Farm Bureau on their Young Farmer and Rancher. So I was district chair and I've been state chair, which has given me opportunities to work hand in hand with agriculture, especially those that were the younger, under 35 at that time, to be able to learn and grow and more with what the ag is in Canyon County. I've also had the opportunity to serve for 2 years. So I had 2 years and then I got redshirted this last cycle. So hoping to be able to serve Canyon County again.
Thank you, Melissa. We're going to now start with Sean. So if you pass the microphone back down, thank you. This is a 90-second question. What, if elected, will be your top 3 priorities and why?
Let's see. Opportunities. I want to talk about that for the most part. How many people here and at home watching know a young person who had to move out of state or still lives at home because they can't afford to move out, or they have to go somewhere else to start a new life? I don't think that's right. As a 4th generation Idahoan, I don't like seeing native-borns or people who wanted to stay here but couldn't afford it have to leave. It's a travesty. It's something that needs fixed. And that's my main reason for running right now, and the reason I'm here talking to you. I'm an introvert. I'd rather be at home, but I feel somebody's got to stand up. It's something that I never hear the legislature talk about, and it's getting worse, and we need to fix it. I'd also like to focus on education and government transparency, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Cody?
Can you repeat the question?
What, if elected, will be your top 3 priorities and why?
Sure. So my top priority is affordability and the cost of living. My wife and I bought our house in March of 2022. And if you remember anything about the pandemic and that specific time period, that's when interest rates were right about to spike. So housing was super expensive and we got locked into a low interest rate. So now we're kind of stuck, right? So being able to afford things is important. Like Simmons was saying, the next generation can't afford to live here. There's a lot of reasons for that. There's taxes, there's growth constraints, there's the housing supply, there's just the costs of goods and services, but there's a lot that can be done on a legislative level to help ease some of that. My second priority is public safety. We learned in the coroner debate that fentanyl is a big deal, right? So it's not just me saying that, it's recorded that there's a drug problem. I don't want that. I have a 3-year-old and one on the way. Like, the last thing I want is to have to worry about that for them. So I want to have police officers, I want to have state troopers, I want to have opportunities to help people get through some of these problems. And my last priority, my top 3, is managing the growth in infrastructure. Growth is important, but it needs to be done the right way. You can't stop it or you're going to decline, but you can't just let it go nuts either, right? There's a right way to do it.
Okay, Steve, the question again is, what, if elected, will be your top 3 priorities and why? You have 90 seconds.
Yes, thank you. It's a very similar answer. I think the first issue, and they're all related, the top 3 are all related, would be growth is a major issue. We all have seen the what's happened since in the last about 6 years in this area. I think since I've lived here, the city has increased to 50,000 citizens since we've been here. And infrastructure is a big part of that. I think we need to pause growth or find ways to pause growth so that we can concentrate on infrastructure. The second one would be affordability. You know, the average age now of first-time home buyers is about in the late 30s or 40 years old. So we need to address that. And that's a really difficult thing right now, considering where Canyon County is, particularly Nampa, in the period that we're in now, with all the people that are coming in from out of state, the price of homes that are being built, and the money that out-of-staters have, to buy homes is driving prices up. And that dovetails into the third issue, which is property taxes. That because of the growth and the increased cost of housing, then property taxes become a larger issue. So they're all interrelated. And for a city perspective, those would be my three priorities.
Okay, thank you. Melissa, what, if elected, will be your top 3 priorities and why?
So my top 3 priorities, starting first, I currently work as a school-based speech language pathologist. So being able to kind of clean up and work on our special education. There's a lot of gray area in there, and it's a very, very special population to my heart, but there's a lot of work that still needs to be done with them to ensure that they're getting the quality people working with them. My next would be growth and infrastructure. We really need to work on being proactive with our growth and making sure that we have the infrastructure to support it before we're just growing out, because building smarter is always going to be more effective than us trying to be reactive because we went above our means or above our infrastructure. And then my third priority would be preserving ag, working to keep the heart of Idaho, which is agriculture. It's one of the mainstays for our economy, and it's what makes us who we are. And so being able to work on trying to keep ways to preserve the ag land. Canyon County is such a special county. We have spots here that this is where you can grow the world seed, and you can't grow it anywhere else. And we need to make sure that we're doing our best to keep the special aspects like that and with our ag available for generations to come.
Okay, pass the mic down to Ben. And Ben, the question again is, what, if elected, will be your top 3 priorities and why? 90 seconds.
Awesome, thank you. 90 seconds is not enough time to tell you all the priorities that I have. Okay, but I will try and hit these. First off, I want to touch on a couple things. Housing affordability was the most talked about issue in the legislature this year. All of those proposals were build in and up, which is that does not improve quality of life for people here in Nampa. Okay, so it doesn't solve the problem. In my 6 years in the legislature, we have provided the largest increase in education funding in the history of the state. Okay, I just want to highlight those things. My top 3 priorities: protecting the God-given constitutional rights to life, liberty, and happiness. That is the ultimate mission of the legislature. Above all the other stuff, that's the key. Secondly, I want to continue to provide wins for our town, like repeal of the emissions tax, the emissions testing that we already did. Property tax reductions. This is the first time in the last 6 years while I've served in the legislature, first time I ever saw my property taxes go down. And lastly, the repeal of House Bill 389 in almost entirety. That has been devastating to the city of Nampa, to the county, to Canyon County, and we can actually do that. We got a little bit of it done, but just EMS and fire, there's a lot more where that came from, and we need to get back in there and finish that up.
Okay, this next question, you'll have a minute to answer, and we'll pass the mic down to Mr. Daffer. And a lot of you mentioned growth as one of your top 3 priorities. So as a legislator, what tools do you have to manage or impact growth?
Sure. So one of the first things that come to mind is, as I'm on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I get to be a part of that growth conversation in Nampa a lot. And as a legislator, they get to set policies that guide that. They get to dictate the rules on how those things are decided. They get to tell cities how they can, what the balance between the city and the county is, what the cities can do to what say they have over private property rights, right? They, as a legislator, you get to set the tone, you get to set the rules, and you get to guide the way the things want to go. Me personally, I like the idea of small government, right? I don't like how things have been crammed down by the state to the cities and to the counties. I want to see the opposite happen. Let's have a hands-off approach from a state level, because it's not Boise's job to decide how Nampa grows. It's not Idaho Falls' job to affect Coeur d'Alene, you know.
Okay. Mr. Tanner, as a state legislator, what tools do you have to manage or impact growth?
Yeah, like's been stated, from a policy, the legislature sets policy, and we could set some general guidelines, for how growth can happen in the state. But really, I think that the controls need to germinate up from the city level up to the legislature. The city, needs to, determine how it wants to grow, what its needs are for growth, and then communicate that up to the county and also to the legislature. And then they could work together to do it. I agree, we should not have a top-down approach from the legislature down to the city, micromanaging the cities or the counties, telling them how they have to grow. So I would just say, I would leave that up to the cities for that to germinate up to the top, communicate that to the legislature, how the legislature can help them and guide them in their growth.
All right. Ms. Durant, do you want the question repeated?
Yes, please.
Yes, as a state legislator, what tools do you have to manage or impact growth?
I would say the tools that I have would be to make sure that these local communities have all the tools in their toolbox that they need to govern at that local level. Because when we look just here at Canyon County, Nampa is going to be very different than Melba, and Nampa and Caldwell are both going to be very different. So we need to, at the legislature, make sure we're putting law into effect that provides opportunities for that local control to grow where they need and how they need in the most effective way without trying to dictate statewide, because statewide can't know, like it's been said, you can't know what everyone goes through. Everyone is different and everyone grows at different rates. I mean, we look at this county, we said it's the fastest growing in Idaho. Obviously, Canyon County is so different from Ada County just in the fact at the rates that we need to make sure everyone has their own tools and their own most effective way to grow for themselves.
All right. If we could pass the mic down to Mr. Adams. Again, as a state legislator, what tools do you have to manage or impact growth?
The question isn't what tools do we have? The question is what tools should we use at the state level? If you want to see an example of state level growth control, it's House Bill 389, which is starving out your local governments for funds in the attempt to make them to stop growing. But that's not what we see here down at the local level. That's not the reality on the ground. So the question really isn't about, in my mind, what can the legislature do? It's what they should or shouldn't do. And the answer is growth happens down here at the local level. Okay, as a state, we should facilitate policies that allow for healthy, responsible growth, not careless policy that really puts our cities in a hamstrung, really.
Okay, and our last candidate to answer this question, Mr. Simmons, 60 seconds. As a state legislator, what tools would you have to manage or impact growth?
I think the best tool, as a conservative, I feel that government functions best when it's closest to the people. And that's getting it back to your local governments, the county governments, the municipalities. We've seen time and time again in this state and several others where you get a higher form of government involved. All it does is create bureaucracies, it creates fraud, it creates all kinds of problems. Our local governments, our cities, our counties are usually a lot more responsible with the money than a state legislature ever will be. Thank you.
Okay, if you'll pass the microphone down to Steve. Thank you. Steve, we'll start with 60 seconds. How do you plan to be accessible to citizens and engaged with the community?
Yes, thank you. I have an open door policy, and you can call, you can email me, and I'm happy to meet anytime. Also, I go to District 13's has District 13 Republican Party has a town hall nearly every month. I've met every one of those. I'm available in that setting. Like I said, I'm out door knocking quite a bit, talking to people, and remaining accessible that way. But I have an open door policy, and I invite communication. One of the things that I felt was kind of lacking in my first term was, not having enough communication. People coming, calling me or contacting me about a particular issue. So yes, I invite it.
Okay, Melissa? How do you plan to be accessible to citizens and engaged with the community?
My plan is to the same, have that open door policy. Before, I've had people call, text, email. I've had grocery store conversations. I've even had some times at my kids' sporting events where we talk, we pause, we watch the kid do their thing, and then we go back to talking. I can't know what the people really need if I'm not willing to be there when they need me. And so just making sure that I am a resource to them at all times, and that I'm not just that resource, but I'm also a listening ear to help them with their concerns and to understand where they're coming from. Because without being that ear and actually listening to what they say, I would just be a sounding wall, and I don't want to be that. I want to actually represent my people and listen to them whenever and however they need me.
Okay, we'll pass that microphone back down to Ben.
Thank you.
And Ben, the question is, how do you plan to be accessible to citizens and engaged with the community?
Thank you. Let me tell you how I am accessible to the community. If you look back along the back, you'll see a bunch of campaign signs. There's only one of them that I can tell that has an address on it, that has a phone number on it. That address is where I live, and I have citizens that come to my house to talk. That number goes right here to my cell phone. You leave me a message, you shoot me a text, you will hear back from me. That is how I communicate with my constituents. I don't know of any other sitting legislator that has that availability to their voters. It's important. During session, I have constituents from District 12 who walk into my office. They just came down to the Capitol. Guess what? They get to see me. That is how representative government is supposed to work, and that's how I operate.
Okay, thank you. Sean, how do you plan to be accessible to citizens and engaged with the community?
I think being accessible starts by listening to the people and understanding what struggles that they're going through, your neighbors, families, friends. We all share a lot of the same issues. I think it starts there, working with common ground. And then it goes back to your local community that you represent. So in District 12, I would work with Canyon County and Boise City Council to try to come up with solutions to the biggest problems that we face as our community grows. I guess just being there for people when they need it most, and just having a servant's heart.
Okay, Cody, how do you plan to be accessible to citizens and engaged with the community?
Yeah, so anybody who needs to get a hold of me, my assistant's number is, no, I'm just kidding. So I think that it's pretty easy to say, I got an open door policy, here's my phone number, and they make you post that on the state website. Like that's not hard to track down. I think what's important is being places people are, right? Being at city council, being at the Chamber of Commerce, being places where people, normal citizens, are concerned. You know, if someone's upset enough, they're gonna find a way to get a hold of you. I'm not worried about that at all. Between social media, email, and phone numbers, you'll find me. But I want to be I want to be at places where people aren't upset yet. Let's solve some problems before they get bad, right? Let's get involved in the community and understand what the problems that we need to solve are from a state level, so that people don't have to call me upset, because, my assistant might not like that.
Okay, we'll start this next round of questions with Ms. Durant. If an organization outside of your district asked you to sign a pledge, would you sign it? Why or why not? And if that pledge conflicted with what your constituents want, how would you handle the situation?
What was the time on that again?
Oh, you have a minute to answer.
I think the biggest thing there is the word pledge. If you sign a pledge, you're pledging that you follow that. When I filed to be a representative, I filed to represent my people, represent those in my district. I did not file to represent whoever that pledge is. So for me, I don't agree with pledges. I don't, because that is telling the constituents that I'm not going to represent them. I'm not going to listen to them. I'm only going to listen to the group that I say that I'm pledging to. And that is not my job. And if I am one that were to do that, I would hope that my constituents would get rid of me, because that shows that I don't care about the position and I don't care about my district, which the reality of it is I am very passionate and I want to represent my district and be the voice that my district knows is going to take their issues to the Capitol and not somebody else's.
Right. Again, the long pass down to A for Adams. If an organization outside your district asked you to sign a pledge, would you sign it? Why or why not? And if that pledge conflicted with what your constituents want, how would you handle that situation?
Okay, so this is a real thing that actually happens in Idaho politics.
That's why we're asking.
Every single thank you. Every single legislator gets absolutely bombarded with sign our pledge and we'll do this, or sign our pledge and then we'll do this. It depends on what the pledge is. I don't think signing a pledge fundamentally disconnects you from your voters. For instance, when I first ran for the legislature back in 2020, I signed a pledge that I would not raise your taxes. Well, that is in line with my constituents. That's exactly what they want. And so it helps, so they know this is where I stand. That being said, if they bring a pledge to me and it's contrary to what I know my voters want, then it's a no-brainer. You do not sign on to anything. And I have stayed away from pledges, ironically, since 2020.
All right, Gary, you have time. You need to pass the microphone. Yep.
Since 2020, period.
Mr. Simmons, again, if an organization outside of your district asked you to sign a pledge, would you sign it? Why or why not? And if it conflicted with what your constituents want, how would you handle that situation?
Well, I've been running my campaign a little differently than most. I don't take donations. I'm not spending any money. I'm not seeking endorsements. I feel that that's a stain on our state. It leads to conflicts of interests, even if it's just perceived, even just a perceived notion that you're making a decision based upon a donation. It's going to sour people's minds. I want to stay away from that. I would say, unless it was something, common sense, like, oh yeah, well, I take the Pledge of the Allegiance. Yeah, of course. Otherwise, I'm going to focus on my constituents, and I will only make a pledge to uphold the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Idaho.
Right, Mr. Duffer, do you want the question repeated?
Please.
Right. If an organization outside your district asked you to sign a pledge, would you sign it? Why or why not? And if that pledge conflicted with what your constituents want, how would you handle that situation?
Yeah, so I took a pledge when I was baptized to represent Christ, and I say the Pledge of Allegiance. Outside of that, I don't feel like pledges need to be a part of this. I have a hard time with I would never and I would always. That's hard for me, because the minute you start saying that, you stop conversating. You don't have discussions anymore. As soon as you say, I would never raise your taxes, that sounds great. I would love to never raise taxes, but what if something happens? What if we have to? You know, there was a lot of people that wanted to keep the Idaho Ford Center, and they were willing to raise taxes for that. You know, if you say, I would never, you can't talk to them anymore. That's done. It's a moot point, right? So all pledges do is stop you from having discussions with your neighbors. I don't want this to be a politics, your side, my side thing. I want this to be a let's figure it out together thing.
Mr. Tanner, would you like it repeated?
No, I'm fine. Quick comment, just going back to the question about accessibility. By the way, there's a meet and greet for me this Friday night at the American Legion Hall. Sorry, shameless plug. As far as pledges, it would depend on the pledge. The only pledge I think that I have signed is I've signed the Idaho GOP platform, and I don't think there's any others that I know of that I've signed. And the reason for that is because, just like Mr. Daffer was saying, if there was something more specific, you know, that I wouldn't raise taxes, you can't foresee what's going to happen there. So I wouldn't sign something that specific. But I want people to know who I am. I want them to know my values, what I stand for. If, you know, I'm standing here running a campaign for re-election, I want people to know who I am, what I represent, and whether or not they really want me.
Are we sure? Did Melissa get a chance to answer? Okay, all right, very good. Ben, you're up. And this is a 60-second question. House Bill 389 has made balancing a growing community's budget difficult to balance. Would you support changes to House Bill 389? If so, what changes would you support?
Yes. A lot of people don't know this. I was in the legislature. It was my first term, and I went up against the Speaker of the House on 389 and fought him tooth and nail. Now, surprise, surprise, I didn't have the political clout to beat him on that bill. But from the beginning, 389 has been a bad bill. One thing I would like to fix on that is it also restricts our ability to fund our police departments, our local police departments. That is a serious problem. But the bill is fundamentally flawed because it takes complete control, it takes all the control away from that local government and puts them in a mandatory cap on how much they can grow, not based on their needs, but based on the will of the state. And that does not really mean anything to me. Thank you.
Sean, I'll repeat the question for you. House Bill 389 has made balancing a growing community's budget difficult to balance. Would you support changes to House Bill 389? And if so, what changes would you support?
Surprise, yeah, I'd go against it. It's caused a lot of issue. It's not fair taxation, obviously. What changes I would get with local government leaders and come up with a list of harm that it's caused to the community and try to get those amendments in. If that didn't work, then I'd try to work with other local leaders throughout the state to maybe start a citizens initiative. We play by the rules as citizens, and we expect government to do the same. Thank you.
All right, Cody. House Bill 389 has made balancing a growing community's budget difficult to balance. Would you support changes to House Bill 389? And if so, what changes would you support?
Earlier, I had referenced not wanting to cram things down on cities through state policy, and this is a perfect example of that. I am all for lower taxes. I already talked about how I can barely afford to live here, right? But for a state legislator to tell a city what they can and can't do to raise their own revenue. That's not right. I voted in my city council race so that my city council members can decide what my city taxes are going to be. I didn't vote for the guy who proposed Bill 389. And after that, I'm not sure that I would, because he just wants to cram down a bunch of state laws on me when I think it should be the other way around, right? The state's there to protect my city from the federal government, but they shouldn't be doing it that way. So I am in favor of repealing that and letting the cities raise the revenue that they need on their own terms.
Okay, Steve, do you want the question repeated?
Please.
Okay. House Bill 389 has made balancing a growing community's budget difficult to balance. Would you support changes to House Bill 389? And if so, what changes would you support?
Thank you. Yes, I agree with the former comments here that 389 has really been a difficult pill for cities like Nampa to swallow. That I would support changes to it. It would depend also on some of the calculations, and here's why. If you repeal 389, property taxes are going to go up. Who wants property taxes to go up? So this is where we need to really understand what we need to calculate it out, what we're doing when we repeal it. There was a bill that came through this term, I think it was 551, that provided relief for ambulance and fire. I would seek the same thing for police. I agree with that we need to allow our police and local law enforcement to have the resources that they need. But I agree with the idea that it's a bad policy to legislate top-down like this.
All right. Melissa, the question is, House Bill 389 has made balancing a growing community's budget difficult to balance. Would you support changes to House Bill 389? And if so, what changes would you support?
Yes, I would support changes to House Bill 389 as long as those changes are coming from the local leaders. I think one of the biggest things we can do with that is start looking at the data, looking at how it is actually affected from what they thought to what the cities actually have on record, and then start looking at that data to then be like, to keep our focus specifically on the greatest needs, and that to know where it targeted the hardest. Because I think, like Tanner said, it's gonna be very, very hard to just repeal it straight up, that there's gonna be that property tax that's really gonna bite. But if we start focusing on, with our local control, what had the biggest aspect of it that had the negative impact, and start slowly chipping away at it, we're gonna have a more effective way of getting rid of it at a slower, less painful one on our citizens.
Okay, we'll start this next question with Mr. Simmons. The 2026 legislative session was consumed with making cuts and balancing the state budget. Idaho is not in a recession. Describe why we have a budget problem and what should be done to fix it.
Well, I believe it's the responsibility falls on the legislature itself. I think that they should start planning ahead more. What it came down to was there weren't getting enough revenue than what was projected. Okay, well, in my opinion, you do that in the private sector, you lose your job or your business files bankruptcy making that kind of mistake. That's one of the reasons I'm running. You have 105 legislative districts. 100 of those legislators are up for re-election. And I'm questioning, why should we give them another chance?
Okay, Mr. Daff, for that question again, the 2026 legislative session was consumed with making cuts and balancing the state budget. Idaho is not in a recession. Describe why we have a budget problem and what should be done to fix it.
Well, to my understanding, the reason that we had a budget shortfall was because we were matching our state tax code with the Trump tax cuts. And so because of that, we ended up with a much steeper cut than was expected. Governor Little asked for a $100 million cut, and we ended up with a $350 million cut, if my understanding. So we had to find ways to make cuts and make it happen. I think it's interesting where things got cut and where things didn't, and that's something we should pay attention to, right? For example, the school choice bill. I am all for school choice. That added $50 million to the budget. It didn't take it from the school budget. It just added $50 million more, and that didn't get cut, right? But we made other cuts in the school district budget, or I believe there's cuts across the board. So, to my knowledge, they happen because we're matching tax cuts, which is what we want, but we need to make sure that they all balance out.
Your time. On to Mr. Tanner. Would you like that repeated? The 2026 legislative session was consumed with making cuts and balancing the state budget. Idaho is not in a recession. Describe why we have a budget problem and what should be done to fix it.
Well, what happened last year, or this year, Mr. Daffer touched on it, was because of the One Big Beautiful Bill, there were some implications for the amount of revenue. We ended up with less revenue coming in, and so less, we weren't in a position to look like that we could balance the budget. But having said that, Idaho doesn't have a revenue problem. Idaho has a spending problem. Idaho has credit card-itis. You know, we should, have a budget and a financial system in Idaho where we are revenue-based. Based on our revenue, we figure out what we can pay for, not say what do we want to pay for, and then figure out, go out and borrow like federal money, so we have money to pay for the big shiny thing that we want. So it's that's what I would say is just stay within our limits. Yeah.
All right. Ms. Durand, would you like the question repeated?
Yes, please.
Okay. The 2026 legislative session was consumed with making cuts and balancing the state budget. Idaho is not in a recession. Describe why we have a budget problem and what should be done to fix it.
I think the answer of why has already been said. We had expectations that didn't happen, and we kind of put the cart before the horse a little bit with those expectations. And I think the best thing that we can do with our budget is to just go back to the basics, the same that we do at home. We plan our budgets to where we give ourselves a little cushion to make sure that we are living within our means and we have our needs taken care of, and then when it comes to wants, then we hope we have a cushion for it. But at the state level, it's like it's already kind of been said, we've started focusing on kind of wanting everything, and that's not the most effective or efficient way for us to handle our funds. So just going back to the basics of having a balanced budget, the way we do at home, have it at the state level as well.
And finally, we'll have that down to Ben Adams. The 2026 legislative session was consumed by making cuts and balancing the state budget. Idaho's not in a recession. Describe why we have a budget problem and what should be done to fix it.
Okay, we do not have a budget problem. Okay, we do not have a revenue problem. We actually do have a spending problem. And this is someone who was here in 2020 when we got all the federal money. And then I served 2 years on the finance committee and watched that state budget grow by billions in 6 years. I mean, just absolutely took off, because if you have money in the hand, you use it. And so we got to see that. I want to highlight a couple things. No K-12 money got cut this year. None. Zero. Did not happen. The state legislature provided $450 million in 2025 of your money and said, you keep it. It's better in your hands than in ours. Yes, the big beautiful bill came through and our projections were off. We have a balanced budget amendment in our state, and we have to follow it, and we did.
Okay, we're going to start with the next question, and that we will start with Cody. And it's 60 seconds. The chamber believes government closest to the people is the best government. Recently, the Idaho legislature passed several national bills usurping local government, including book restrictions, flags, and law enforcement. Do you support local government control? Why or why not? 60 seconds.
Well, I think I answered this question before this question came up. I don't want the top-down control, right? I actually, as a Nampa resident and a guy who doesn't do politics all the time, it bothers me how much time we spent on things like, should Boise fly the pride flag? That doesn't affect my daily life. That doesn't affect the Nampa. Leave that alone. Like, let them do what they're gonna do. Let the cities decide. I don't want the state legislature telling me how to run my city when I've already elected officials to do that, right? Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot more to add to that. I really just, that's how I feel. I'm a Nampa resident, and I want to make decisions for Nampa, not for the state.
Okay, Mr. Tanner. The Chamber believes government closest to the people is the best government. Recently, the Idaho legislature passed several national bills usurping local government, including book restrictions, flags, and law enforcement. Do you support local government control, and why or why not?
Yes, for fiscal issues, definitely. On some of the social issues, they are cultural, social issues that require a policy response. And so in some cases, you know, the legislature, it is in their purview to make those decisions. But as far as like physical planning, growth, all the issues that we've been talking about here tonight, definitely I believe in limited government to allow the cities to frame how they're going to grow and how they're going to live.
Okay, Melissa. The Chamber believes government closest to the people is the best government. Recently, the Idaho legislature passed several national bills usurping local government, including book restrictions, flags, and law enforcement. Do you support local government control, and why or why not?
As we've already talked about previously tonight, and a lot of it, local is best. Local is that grassroots that knows the best for their people. But we also have at the state level, the state is that checks and balances for the local. And so making sure that the state is that check and balance without tying the hands of our local government is going to be the most important process, because if you have a local government that does not have their people in the best interest, there needs to be a check and balance. Luckily in Idaho, we haven't seen that. For the most part, our local government really is that boots on the ground, knows and understands their people best. And at the state level, they need to take that into context and use that resource to do what's best and not use it as something I'm going to tie the hands on and not let them serve their people.
Okay, Ben? The Chamber believes government closest to the people is the best government. Recently, the Idaho legislature passed several national bills usurping local government, including book restrictions, flags, and law enforcement. Do you support local government control, and why not?
Local government control is a good thing, especially when it comes to the taxpayers. When it comes to social issues and lawsuits, this is where the state has a role. If the city was the best government for all things, then we wouldn't need a federal government or a state government. We would just have little fiefdoms all over the place. But that's not how our government is set up. The reality is when our state takes on lawsuits like the library issues or the flags or different social issues that our voters care about, the state is taking on the legal responsibility. So the city is not going to get sued into oblivion. The state is capable of taking on that fight. And that is I would argue, is a protection for our local governments while still representing them.
Okay, Sean, you get to wrap this question up. The Chamber believes government closest to the people is the best government. Recently, the Idaho legislature passed several national bills usurping local government, including book restrictions, flags, and law enforcement. Do you support local government control? Why or why not?
Well, as I stated earlier, I believe that liberty is served best when it's closest to the people. When you have multiple masters that you have to answer to, it's hard to exercise your voice. I believe that for liberty to exist, government should be very limited, and it should be as closest to the people as possible. Now, when it comes to certain issues that cause society harm, then yes, a law needs to be written to make sure that we are taking care of our people. Thank you.
Okay, this next question has to do with education. We'll start with Mr. Tanner. Do you believe the state government meets its constitutional obligation to properly fund Idaho's public education? Why or why not? And give an example of how you would improve public education in our community.
Thank you. Yes, I think we do. We spend, I think it's a little over $3 billion right now, K through 12 education. Education has grown 93%. The budget for education has grown 93% over the last 10 years. It's grown to a huge amount. The way that I would improve it is we have a lot of problems, though, in our education, in education, and that is, if you look at the ISAT scores, they're not where they need to be. They're very poor, and we need to get in and find out why we have such poor performance. So there's a lot of ways that we can improve education, make it more competitive. I visited with the superintendent this week. We talked about different models of education, charter schools, community schools, and so on. So I would explore different models.
Ms. Durant, do you believe state government meets its constitutional obligation to properly fund Idaho's public education? Why or why not? And give an example of how you would improve public education in our community.
I would say, for the most part, that the state is holding up to that Constitution. I feel there are some aspects that may seem to fall, but it's also hard to tell because we do have some spots that we don't have the full accurate data of how things are handling, and we have such a growth. The school that I'm currently at, we don't even have full numbers in yet, and we're at capacity. And so it's hard to be able to get these full numbers into full justification when what works one year doesn't work the next year, because now you have a huge influx of kids in that area. And so I think one of the biggest things we can do is just stop and look, what is best for kids? And our focus needs to be what is best for these kids. And so getting back to basics with the arithmetic, the common things that we all learn, our math, our science, and focus on those and not so much on the other aspects.
All right. Down to Mr. Adams. Do you believe the state government meets its constitutional obligation to properly fund Idaho's public education? Why or why not? And give an example of how you would improve public education in our communities.
How long?
You got a minute.
Oh, great. There are several different mechanisms that we use to fund education in the state. One is the endowment. I believe last year it was $68 million comes out just from the endowment lands that goes into our K-12 education. We also have local property taxes and bonds and levies. That is decided by you guys, not the legislature. The legislature can only pump money in to offset property taxes. We don't take any of that money. And then there's other dedicated funds that also goes into education. It is this education, K-12 is the second largest budget item in the state of Idaho. It's billions of dollars. The only thing higher is Medicaid. In my 6 years, we've seen the largest pay increase in the state history in education, investments in education, and teacher pay. We need to address facilities funding. That is a mechanism that's a problem. And we need to restructure the funding formula for K-12.
And down to Mr. Simmons. Do you believe the state government meets its constitutional obligation to properly fund Idaho's public education? Tell us why or why not. And give an example of how you would improve public education in our communities.
Well, I believe it meets the constitutional obligation, but I'd like to speak a moment for what I talked about earlier about opportunity for our young families. Could we do more? Yeah, and I think it's shifting priorities. We have to think, the latest data is that for the first time, the death rate is going to surpass the birth rate in the United States. That's going to happen by around 2030, so around 4 years. If we don't create opportunities for our youth and young families, other states will. They're going to look to them to move. And with an aging population, it's going to create more and more problems. We need to start thinking about the future. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Daffer, would you like it repeated?
Yes.
Do you believe the state government meets its constitutional obligation to properly fund Idaho's public education system? Why or why not? And give an example of how you would improve public education in our communities.
Sure. So based off of the people up here that have had experience on funding this, they all say that we meet that constitutional obligation. I don't know. But what I would like to do is go find out open your mind a little bit here and find out what areas that we do need to improve. You know, there are states out there that do have this figured out. There's countries out there that have this figured out. Why are they able to do it and not us? Is test scores really what we're after, or is it job placement? Do we need to focus more on some of the job placement programs? I know that 50% of the people who graduate from a technical school here in Idaho stay in Idaho. That's fantastic. Why don't we support more of that? In the Builders and Contractors Associations, that's what they're all about, was trying to get high schoolers excited about trades and how to build things. Like, is test scores really what we're after? Is that what we're paying all our money for, or is it giving people opportunities in life? And what does it actually look like?
All right, thank you. Pass the microphone down to Melissa. You've all done a great job. We're on our last question. It's 60 seconds. It's the shortest question that we have to repeat. Why should voters choose you to serve as an Idaho legislator?
People should choose me because I've done it before. I want to represent the people, and my focus is that of the people of the district. I work in a career that I see the hands-on aspects of what the laws and changes that are made at the Capitol, how they funnel down to people in their everyday life. And I want to be a help. I want to be the voice for those people. And I've also had the experience of having negative campaigns against me. I had $98,000 spent against me last time, which goes to show that I represent my people. I don't represent the out-of-state money and the out-of-district things, and that I am here to represent my people, and I will represent my people.
Okay, pass that back down to Ben, please. Why should voters choose you to serve as an Idaho legislator?
Thank you for that question. I'll list off three things. The first one is accessibility. I'm available to my constituents. They know that. Y'all know where I live. And that's good. That's good. That's called local representation. Experience. I have experience in the legislative process. I've been on the Finance Committee, the State Affairs Committee, the Local Government and Taxation Committee, which is critical committee to this city. I've served on it for 6 years, and a lot of the efforts to move back 389 have come right through that committee. And also results. In my time in the legislature, I have been able to bring win after win back, not just to the city of Nampa, but to every single voter. Everybody knows they don't have to pay for their emissions testing anymore. Everybody knows they don't need a COVID shot to work. These are real results. and I look forward to bringing many more back to the city of Nampa.
Okay, Sean, why should voters choose you to serve as an Idaho legislator?
Well, I just like to ask everybody to do their due diligence and look into the issues at hand and, you know, pray about it and go with your heart. There's a lot of issues that need addressed. As a conservative, I'm running against Ben here in the primary. I'm asking all Republicans to vote in the May 19th primary. If you think business as usual is good and that we're doing just fine as a state and as individuals, vote for Ben. If you think it's time for a change, I'm available. Thank you.
All right, Cody, why should voters choose you to serve as an Idaho legislator?
Sure. So I'm not a career politician. Don't let the church suit fool you. I'm just a member of the community. You know, I own a business. I have family deep roots in Idaho. Like, I don't do this for a living. It's not something that I wake up every morning and can't wait to do politics, right? Until a few years ago, I tried to stay out of it because it's just really hard to be a part of it. But I have the disposition for it. I have the ability to talk to others. On the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm up against people all the time who are upset with what's going on. I know how to talk to them. You know, this isn't about jumping up there and shouting platitudes and locking in your vote before the conversation's even had, right? You need people up there who are trying to find solutions. Let's get things done. Let's not just sit here and vote how we're told to vote, right? Let's do what's right for Nampa, not the Republican Party, right?
Okay, Steve, you get the last word.
All right, thank you.
Why should voters choose you to serve as an Idaho legislator?
Yes, thank you. The reasons are, we made a lot of strides in the last legislative session. For instance, in reducing, our last two sessions, reducing taxes, fighting for medical freedom, establishing more election integrity, protecting the rights of individuals, and also trying to bring some more control to the illegal immigration issue. I think my conservative bona fides have been established. They've been demonstrated. I have established relationships with key figures like the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, and I've had some success in getting some bills through. In the 2 years that I've been serving, I've been able to pass 8 bills into law. And so it takes a certain expertise and experience, and that's what I bring.
All right, give them all a hand. Closing remarks. I think I'm on here. Closing remarks. A couple of thank yous. One to you guys for taking the time. That means that you care about your local community. So thank you to you guys. Thank you to all of our candidates. Feel free to stick around for a few minutes and network. Jimmy brought cookies. Thank you for that. Brad and Alice, thank you for helping us navigate through the sound stuff tonight. Vicky and Claudia, you're rock stars. Thank you for doing this. Yes, thank you. You guys are rock stars. True professionals, and you take us from good to great. Remember the website, nampa.com. I think Jill was looking, we had like 100 plus people watching online. This was recorded. All of our friends here can now push it out to their networks of supporters and campaign teams. Let me make sure I'm getting everything here. Idaho Press, thank you for being here. We look forward to a great big story tomorrow. No pressure, Trevor. And again, we do this because we want to get educated and get voter turnout. So again, get yourself educated, get people to the polls. Thank you to our city council friends and legislators that were here. I don't think I'm forgetting anything other than May matters. So go vote, go vote, go vote. You guys are appreciated. Have a wonderful night.